Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, All Things Middle-earth here with a little bit of a different kind of video. Today I want to look at 5 characters or 5 pairs of characters that I think they could add in The Lord of the Rings, The Rise to War. So let's get right into the video. Okay, so if you've started playing The Rise to War, you know that they use commanders as a means to command the different armies and troops you have in the game to capture different tiles, and so on and so forth from there. And so if you're like me, you've spent some time looking through these, especially looking at some of the cooler tier 3s that we have in the game. And as I've been doing that, I've just had a few thoughts of people that, or characters they could add into the game as commanders. So I do want to preface this by saying if there are characters that ever get added to this game in its entire lifespan, I definitely do not think there should be any kind of a power creep happening. So they should not add a character that is all of a sudden more powerful than every other character in the game. Obviously, if they choose to add a new tier 3 character, it may be better or, more powerful than a tier 1, but for the most part they need to keep the power levels consistent, because if they just start adding characters, then it almost becomes like kind of the gacha mobile game where you just collect characters and they keep adding new characters and they just keep upping and upping the power levels, and so they definitely do not need to do that. So if that's going to be the case where they keep adding characters and they get more and more powerful, then I'd rather just have no characters added. But eventually, as this game goes on, as the seasons progress, people are going to start getting high respect and getting all the skills unlocked and things like that. Yes, for someone who's not spinning or spinning very casually, it would be probably a long time before, say, for the Witch King, you have him, at anything higher than respect, just enough to unlock him, much less like respect 10 or whatever. But again, long term, the game's been out there, maybe for a year. There's been, 4 or 5 seasons, and we start, thinking, okay, what else can we add to it? So I've got a list of five pairs, or mostly pairs of characters that I think could be used, and some I think could have some of them could add new mechanics to the game that I think would make it interesting. So the very first one is Gollum or SMEAGOL. I'm counting them as one, and then Bilbo as a counterpart to that, possibly. Now, I don't think they should be commanders in the traditional sense that you would have them here. Well, they may be here, but I don't think they would be a commander that would command troops. It's just not really how any of those characters operate. You could even make the argument that Frodo and Sam kind of fall in that category too, where they don't really do a lot of that. I think Merry and Pippin get a little bit more action, just in a different way. But I think you could add Gollum or SMEAGOL, Gollum, SMEAGOL, or Bilbo, or just Gollum, SMEAGOL for the good and evil side, and utilize them as some kind of a scouting type of troop. So especially on my main account, I've been taking a lot of 200 and higher power lands, and every single time I do that, I send a low-level character in to scout and see who's there. Not that big of a deal, not that that's a real problem, but I'm looking to fix that. But it could add for something interesting where there's a Gollum or a SMEAGOL or a Bilbo or a character like that who would be small and hidden, which is kind of how they are portrayed in the Lord of the Rings. And they could go in and not really go in and fight and be defeated, but they could go in and reveal stuff to you about the tile, like who's there, and maybe even if there are any weaknesses or strengths that you could be aware of that would help you in that fight. So I think that would just be, it would add a little bit of a layer to where you could have that scout character. Maybe you still only have one of them, so you still have to prioritize how you want to use them. But using that to kind of shift how you're planning to take bigger tiles, I think could be pretty cool. And this could also even be used for scouting and doing different things with different control points if you wanted to scout out there. Again, I'm not sure how that mechanic would look, but just something that I think could be kind of interesting. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Talion and Celebrimbor from the Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, and Shadow of War games. Now, Celebrimbor is a canon character. Talion is not. My argument for this is that I feel like they have taken a lot of inspirations from a lot of things. I don't know if I would say every single character that is available in this game is like 100% canon. I think there are some things. You could also make the argument that someone like Lurtz isn't canon. He was just in the movies and not in the books. But again, obviously this is the Lord of the Rings, and there's the movies were very popular, so I don't have a problem with that. But I think you could also say, well, we could add a little bit. It's a video game. People like being able to play as things kind of outside of the box there. So I think you could add both of those. Obviously, those would probably be 2 good troops. Whether or not Celebrimbor is a Wraith and works with different Wraith type units, or he just works with elves or whatever, I don't know. But I think those could be two, and obviously you could open the door to those games and have more characters. But I think those would be two pretty iconic ones that would be pretty cool to use. Next up on the list is Sauron, and I know we already have him in the game, but rather how we see him depicted in the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Not like this, but how we see him in his armor. Again, part of my reasoning for including Talion and Celebrimbor is because I feel like this is so close to how Sauron looks in his disguise in the Shadow of War, in the Shadow of War game specifically. I feel like this is so close to how he looks in that game. Whether or not it was completely inspired or taken from that, I don't know. Obviously, you know, Sauron was kind of a deceiver like that and could have just had his description depicted in the books and they drew it from that. But again, I feel like this looks very similar to how he appears in that game, which is fine, totally fine. Use it as a reason to open up Shadow of War. But I think it would be cool to get the Sauron from the Battle of the Last Alliance, swinging his big mace thing around. That would be just a crazy, crazy character to have commanding your armies as an evil player. The next one is Thorin Oakenshield. Now, I don't know if I'll get flack for this. Again, I know the Hobbit movies are kind of a sensitive subject, but the reality is that the Hobbit, that book is canon, and this is a canon character. And you could say, well, you know, he's not alive at the time of the Lord of the Rings, and yeah, maybe you could do that. But again, it's a video game, and there are characters that you could say, well, this person, you know, we have Gil-galad, who I don't believe was alive at the time of the Lord of the Rings. So again, it's a video game. I don't think people are going to care that much about, wait, was that character alive during that live? You know, it doesn't really matter. I think Thorin's a cool character, whether or not how you liked the Hobbit movies. You don't even have to depict how the character looks after how he was in the Hobbit. We have Dwalin and Balin and Ori on the good side, and I would say that those I think are at least inspired by or pull some inspiration from their movie counterparts. Which I think the acting choices for a lot of that was fine. It's just kind of how the whole movie was carried out. But that's a topic for a different day. But Thorin, and then in general maybe some other characters from the Hobbit could be cool just to add more commanders to it. And then my last pair here, number 5, would be Elendil and Isildur, pulling all the way back from the Battle of the Last Alliance. If we go back all the way over here, the War of the Last Alliance, you do get to command 2 elven commanders who were there, but there are also other commanders of men who were there. Here's a good picture of Sauron that I was talking about for something like this for Sauron. But again, you could just start adding people. You could say, well, I don't think Gil-galad was around or played a role in the Lord of the Rings directly, you know, if this is the Lord of the Rings, The Rise to War. But I don't think anyone cares. I think it's a cool character, and you can do that. So same with Elendil and Isildur. You could add them in, and I think that would be pretty cool. So again, that's 5 characters or 5 pairs of characters that I think they could add. I think you could also expand from there a lot and start adding characters that have different functions outside of just commanding troops around. Maybe they do different things in the game to just make it a little bit more interesting as you're playing through. But again, if you like this video, subscribe down below to see more videos on the Lord of the Rings, The Rise to War. And if you want to see another video like this, like a part 2, let me know down in the comments. And let me know if there's any other characters you think should be added to the Lord of the Rings, Rise to War. But that's all I've got for you guys today, and I'll see you in the next one.